Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your breakfast bankroll. From Cape Cod to Cancun, from Vegas to the Vatican, from Tampa to Taipei, we got you covered here from start to finish, open into closing, sharp report, fades, contrarian, public, you name it, we got it. And couldn't be happier. My co-host Scotty Webb from Tampa, glowing, smiling from ear to ear, had an amazing NFL Sunday, which a lot of people can't say. NFL and Sundays, any given Sunday. And yesterday was kind of a weird board. We'll get into that as well. But a lot to talk about today. But without further ado, my man from Tampa himself, Mr. Scott E. Webb. Scotty, my brother, what is happening?
Hey, good morning, Jeff. And some days you get to go to the ticket window quite a bit, and other days you sit there and envy the other guys. And yesterday was the day to go to the ticket window for me, so that was good.
You know, it's funny. We graded out plus 2 units for the week at ECSI here. Last week we graded out plus 4 units. Kind of, unless you're a part of the ECSI VIP experience, kind of hard. We release 1 to 3 plays a day, take days off, yada yada yada. Give out futures, suggest playing series. And some people are, I should say, stubborn. Some people are egotistical. Some people can't let go of the wheel. So they're that instant gratification junkie. So they can't jump in on a series because they want to place a wager tonight and they want it graded tonight. Do I win or do I lose? I can't wait 7 to 10 days. Never mind giving them a future that they got to sit and wait for 3, 6, 8 months. So that's comical. But for us, had a great week, great weekend. Our action parlay, though, we had the reverse sweep, and it was ugly, and it was ugly early. We were on the Chiefs. We figured they'd Tennessee, big win against Buffalo, shorter week, would bounce back, would have a hard time bouncing back. A lot of problems in Kansas City. So our parlay was gone early. And kind of glad it did because the Eagles got their ass handed to them as well. And in the nightcap, again, we had the Niners. So it didn't matter if we went 2-1 and lost by the hook or 0-3. We just ripped the Band-Aid. We were done early. But we still grade out plus 2 units for the week. But anyone following us here on the show and following you had an amazing day. Tell the fans.
Yeah, we talked yesterday, and I gave out the Cincinnati Bengals plus 6.5 yesterday, and I think they were. I don't know. I think that they got tied a couple times in that game, and then they just rebounded, and every time they just answered. So that was a straight up winner, plus 6.5. But I also played that same game over. And over was 45.5, and that number came in as well. So there was 2 wins on one game. And then we were on the Tennessee side yesterday, taking the 4.5 points. And obviously you saw that game, and that was just one-sided pretty much the whole way. And then we played a teaser yesterday, a 6.5-point teaser, which was New England minus 0.5 point and Green Bay minus 2 points. That one came in. And then we were on the last night's game, and, that's an interesting game to talk about, and we'll talk about it in a second. I played over 42, and when the game actually kicked off, it was 41.5. And that game came in as well. So we had five bets yesterday, all 5 wins. All happy that happened. And I would imagine that if people were playing those plays, the one that they would have felt the most uncomfortable with is the night game, in terms of being over 41.5. And the reason being is that it was, if you want to call it a contrarian play, you can, because I think it started at 44, went all the way down to 41.5. and all you heard about was it's 15-mile-an-hour winds, and it's a deluge of rain and blah, 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 all that stuff. But if you really watched, it wasn't that windy. And especially later in the game, even at the end of the first quarter, it wasn't that windy. When you get winds, you need 15, 20-mile-an-hour sustained winds to affect a football game. These guys are really good these days. And the other thing that you need a deluge of rain, meaning that you need a ton of rain to make a football game be a difference in terms of scoring. And from what I saw in that game, there was at times when it was raining, but most of the time it was light rain, meaning that they can play in light rain. I get it. They had some turnovers and some fumbles and some goofy stuff, but that didn't stop scoring. So the other thing that usually happens, Jeff, when you get into these games when you have a lot of turnovers, there's a good likelihood you're going to get short fields and you're going to get cheap scores. So you get turnovers in games. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have lower points. A lot of times it means you're going to have higher points. So I was not opposed to that play at all, and I'm pretty happy coming out of the Saturday that I had. So it's usually opposite of that. Usually I do really good on Saturday and not really good on Sunday, but you know what? It's football, and you just got to make your plays and stay to the course, and then know that there's a game on Monday, and then know that there's games on Tuesday, and then we got to start looking at basketball, and we got to start looking at other stuff. So as we go down the road, we'll be getting into a lot of different things.
I have a few things to say. I don't like to bring up the refs. I don't like to bring up umpires. I think the umpires in the Red Sox Astros series, you go back to, the miscalled third strike, and the series changed right there. You can go back to any game and usually pick a handful of stuff. The reason I'm a little salty when you talked about the Packer game is we had on the winner's circle, the Circa Millions, and shout out to Brett and Kelly and the winner's circle, our proxy. Thank you guys. We had Washington +8. Okay, I've watched football for 50 years that I can remember. And now I'm going to get real salty, okay? Because I've never seen, Scotty, in my life, a quarterback dive for the end zone and have a referee say that he gave himself up. I've never seen it in my life. And they called that against Washington, and then they review it for 28,000 minutes, and then what happens to Washington? This usually happens. It's like the Lions. This happens to bad teams. They go back and then they fumble the next play or they get stuffed. And so I'm going to handpick every time Rodgers rushes for a first down or something and he dives and they don't call him giving himself up. And I'm being salty and sarcastic here, and it is what it is. But I was just blown away by that play. But by getting back to your weather in the San Fran game, the winds they were talking about leading up to the game, and they were howling. But like you said, by the end of the first quarter, that was not a factor. It was the rain, and then Carson Wentz and Frank Reich got it good. They said, "Okay, how are we going to drive down this field here?" Well, then just send Pittman to the mailbox, throw it up. These cornerbacks, these midgets, they can't cover, and they got a couple PIs. And again, Colts were the better team anyways. My preseason pick to win the West, to win the NFC, San Fran in deep turmoil and trouble. I really don't think that Jimmy G is the answer, and Trey Lance isn't ready. So, and when you got a team that's 7-0 and another team that's 6-1, you might start saying, hey, maybe we got to figure out if we're going to get into the top 6 again for a good draft pick and move on from there. But again, hats off. I got here scrolling right now. NFL favorites 5-6 against the spread. The over is 5-6. Some big dogs that went outright. Giants plus 145. Titans plus 185 and Colts plus 165. So that was the NFL in a nutshell. Tonight we got 1 second here while the mouse sleeps there. Saints -4 at Seattle, over under 41 and a hook, and Saints -200 on the money line. Seattle plus 175. A game that we have been spot on with the Saints all year. On the odd weeks, they've won. On the even weeks, they've lost. And now you throw in a team that's coming off a bye week, so they're throwing a wrinkle in here. A Seattle team, again, with no Russell Wilson. A Seattle team that was getting 5 at Pittsburgh and get manhandled in the first half, but played a great second half and managed to cover but lose the game. But come home to the 12th man and catching 4 today, Scotty. Thoughts on this game?
Well, I think this game's a little more difficult because you're looking at a team in the Seattle Seahawks that have one of the worst offensive lines in football, and they're going to be playing against one of the teams in football that have one of the best defensive lines. And then on the other side of the ball, you've got New Orleans, who has one of the best offensive lines in football, and Seattle's a pretty good team. So I think that in the trenches you've got a mismatch here, and I think that mismatch leads to how do you protect and how do you make these. I don't want to call them backup quarterbacks because Winston's not a backup quarterback, but he's not Drew Brees, so. You sit there and you want to protect that quarterback from making turnovers and doing different things. And they have the ability to do that today. I also think that the pluses that Seattle has is their wide receiver group, right? They've got a pretty good wide receiver group, but New Orleans can deal with that because they got a great cornerback group. So everything that Seattle can do to be positive, New Orleans can take it away. So I don't like Seattle, and I don't like them for that reason. Not let alone they got a backup quarterback going today. So the question becomes: is do you trust Winston to cover 4 points on the road against a team that's normally good at home? Or do you really want to play a total game on this one at 41 and a half? I think this one started out at 44 or 45 or something in that neighborhood. I think
44.
And when I pulled this one up, and I'm like, you know what, that's out there kind of where where the 49ers played yesterday. So what does the weather look like on that game? And when you look at the weather on that game, it's the same kind of forecast as you have today that they had yesterday. But it's listed as light rain for the majority of the game and, 13, 14, 15 mile an hour winds. So and we saw yesterday there was a lot of rushing that went on in that football game. And that tends for me to believe if we're going to do that today, that the Saints have some edges here. And I think they have enough edges that I wouldn't want to be on Seattle in any way, shape, or form. So the question becomes is, do we really want to play the Saints -4 on the road? And I don't really want to do that either. So I'm going to pass on the NFL game today just because I think the numbers are probably where they're supposed to be, Jeff. And if I was going to do anything, and we've seen what happens in the NFL and with the way things work. But if I was going to do anything, 41 and a half is not very many points, and I would play that over. But I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to sit back and wait for Thursday's game.
Yeah, I pulled up the weather for you here. 54 degrees at kickoff. Possible light rain, 48%. Wind at 15 miles an hour. And as you look as the game progresses, again, this game here, the wind is they're saying stay at least in that +10. So they got, between 14 and 13 miles an hour. and you got about a 50% chance again of that light rain. So a typical dreary night in Seattle.
Yeah, this the other thing to think about here is the Saints play indoors, and the truth is they're not a very good team in outdoor weather, and then they're going to be given some conditions here to deal with. But I still don't think. I mean, I think you have to do these football games, and you have to start with the where the edges are, and then try to expound on them to see if anybody can overcome them. Seattle doesn't have their main running back. They got guys in there that you never heard of going to run the football tonight. They got a backup quarterback. They got a poor offensive line. They got great wide receivers, but the wide receivers can get taken care of. Marshawn Lattimore is on the other side. So then you start to think about, the defensive line for the Saints, and the Saints can handle this offensive line for Seattle. So I just don't think that this is going to bode well for Seattle. I can see where this game, if Seattle can't move the ball and all they do is punt all the time, this game could be under too. But 41.5 points, not a lot of points, Jeff. And they if they get 17 points, as Seattle does, this game could go over.
I'm going to bring up. We're going to pull some layers on this game here a little further, so everyone can see here. 3.5. Again, we talked yesterday. Okay, I want to make clear to everyone that they're showing here again that this opening line was 3. That is not correct. The actual opening line was Saints -5, which again to me was a huge eye opener when you thought you got Seattle +5 on the road. Now they're coming back home and getting +5. So anyone just turning on this game today says, well, it opened at 3, Jeff, and now it's at 4. That is not true. Again, that opened at 5. It actually looks like, what this actually looks like, Scott, was the exact blueprint of your Chiefs and your Titans game. They're trying to show you the same exact model there. But I wanted to break this down a little further and go into some team totals here, so we might be able to, further look into that total that you're talking about here. You had a Saints team total that opened up at 24 over -120, and Seattle under -115. At Pinnacle right now, you can get the Saints 23.5 under 113, and Seattle 20 and a hook under 139. So they're kind of baiting both of you there, both to get to that 24 and 21 number in this game, which would get you to that 45 or 44 and a hook opening total line. So for all the Seattle backers here, I guess you would go into this game feeling comfortable, if you could get to that 23 or 24. So can Seattle score 23 or 24 points today? That is the question. And are the Saints going to get more towards that 27 number, if you're trying to cover that 4 or 5 point spread?
Yeah, I think it's hard because I think the number's relatively okay. I don't think Seattle's going to score 20 points. Like I said, I think Seattle's probably going to be in that 17 range or lower. So then the question, though, becomes is how much offense does New Orleans put out there? And honestly, they don't blow teams away, and they just win. So, it's going to be, I think, one of these weird spots. And then, I think next week, New Orleans plays Tampa Bay. So that's a home game. So this also could be a bad spot for New Orleans, just in terms of looking at it from a perspective of it's a Monday night game. Yeah, they get an extra day, but they're not going to get an extra day if a team was off of a bye week. So that doesn't help them. And then the other thought is that they're going to have to turn right around, go home, and take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who, by the way, are currently looking like the world champs. I mean, they not that they beat not that Chicago's the greatest team in the world, but when you're scoring 30 and 40 and 50 points every time you go out there, they're going to be tough to beat.
Well, I'm going to give you some words of wisdom, my brother. You better tell Mr. Arians, okay? And I don't root bad on anyone, okay? But when you leave a 44-year-old man out there uh, uh, throwing on first and goal from the 1 and 2 late in the third and the fourth quarter, I'm just going to tell you very nicely that some teams don't take to that very well, and if just you get a late hit on that old man there that you call Mr. Brady, and he gets dinged up, don't come running to us, okay? I mean, granted, hey, he got his 600 touchdown, God bless him, okay? But my point is, hand the ball to Fournette, hand it to Ronald Jones, get your touchdown and get out of Dodge instead of padding your stats. That's just me being me here and being a wise guy. So be careful on that one. You know what I mean?
No, hey, listen. I mean that if they lose Tom Brady, for example, and he goes down, he is that team in regards to they believe in him, they love him. He gets the ball to everybody. He says all the right things. He does all the right things. So it's just, and I'm looking. Looks to me like they got numbers for that game. So it's -4 for, or now it's -4.5 for Tampa Bay, and a total of 50-51 on that game. So be interesting to see if that number really holds up 50-51. I don't know if you can. I don't know if that's another thing you got to think about when you look at these games is how many points is the Bucs going to score. If they score over 30 every game, that total is going to be a pretty high total. And even if they win by, say, 35-17, they still won by a lot of points. But 35-17 is 52 points. So, you got to hope that Tampa Bay does their best on offense every game. And they're going to have duds, right? I mean, they had a dud against the Rams. So they're going to have some of those throughout the year. And you just got to try to figure out where they are. But I'm interested in Green Bay and Arizona next week. I'm interested in, seeing what Tampa Bay does there. Pittsburgh plays Cleveland next week. Tennessee plays Indianapolis next week. So I like these boards, and I shouldn't say these boards. I like these games a little better. I mean, New England plays the Chargers. So it ought to be an interesting week to see where they go. And you know what? Some of these games matter. I mean, they matter a lot. And what people don't understand, and they made a good comment before the game last night. Not that I paid too much attention to some of the stuff they talk about, because boy, this just a show those guys put on. But they did make a mention that using forecasting and trying to figure out what happens if X team wins last night and the other team loses. What percentage chance does each team have of making the playoffs? And it was really interesting to understand that when one team was going to win last night, that approval number for making the playoffs was double what it was for missing the playoffs. So it was a very important game for both teams. And I would reckon to say that it was a major important game for San Francisco. Now they've only got 2 wins, I think. And they're in a division where they're already 5 games behind. So, and then there's all those other teams in between, and they needed to win, and they didn't play like they needed to win, but they needed to win, and they haven't won at that stadium for I don't know what is it 2 years now or some crazy number thing like that, like 9 or 10 straight losses, and they need to go back to Candlestick or something.
I had going back to your Saints and your Bucks next week. In my head, I thought I had an opening number of 3 and a hook. But with those numbers that you're giving out, they're basically giving you the old 28-23, 27-24. You're going to be looking at the numbers that we just looked at. Are the Saints going to get to, 24 plus? Are they going to get stuck on 23? Is Tom going to get 27, 28, 30, or 31? So that will be interesting, definitely, to go there. I'm going to bring up this World Series tomorrow. Astros opened up minus 125, now 145. Braves plus 125. I went back. I thought this was interesting. Excuse me. April, Braves plus 1,000, Astros plus 1,600. And I'm replayed the tape in the back of my head to go back to the spring training and the start of baseball. And the Braves coming off an amazing season the year before, and the Astros, well, the Astros were the Astros, but my point is to see where these two teams are now. The shocker to me was that the Braves were only plus 1,000. I mean, meaning if you go back and you look at the favorites, the Dodgers, the Yankees, some of these other teams, and to see where they are at this price now. We talked yesterday about, I thought, you hold on a little longer, you might be able to sneak in the Braves plus the 130. No knock against the Astros. Again, if they get the pitching that they got in games 4, 5, and 6, they're going to be a tough out. But I think the Braves match up nice here. Any thoughts? We got another day tomorrow that will break this down even further. But what's your thoughts on Monday leading into the World Series, Scott?
Well, I went back and I looked at the Braves against the Astros, and I wanted to see. And you know what's interesting? They haven't played a series against each other in 2017. So they didn't play a series in 2018. They didn't play a series in 2019. They didn't play a series this year or whatever. I'm like, these teams never play each other. They do play each other, but they haven't played each other for a long time. And in that series in 2017, the Astros just dominated and wiped them out. Now, that doesn't mean anything because of how far long ago it was and all the other stuff. And then prior to that, they didn't play another series until 2014. So they've only played like 7 games against each other since 2014. What is that? Almost 8 years or something like that. So this is going to be for us guys that are gray in the tooth and, gray in the hair, this is going to be one of those that is kind of like old school, right? When you do get teams that don't play each other and they're in their World Series, then you got to go, oh my, what's going to happen? So I thought it was kind of interesting that was the case. Number one. Number two, and then when I went and made a line for this game, I think the Braves are being overlooked. I think the Braves are, especially even in game one. I think you should be taking the Braves on the series price, and I think you need to take the Braves every time they're an underdog. I don't care; it doesn't matter. Just take them every single time. So I'm going to be on the Braves a lot, and I'm going to be on the Braves to win the World Series. I'm going to be on the Braves a lot of ways, which hopefully then at some point in time, if I have to hedge against that, I can. But the idea, though, is looking at numbers and statistics and where things are. So Framber Valdez is pitching, right? And he's pitching against this Atlanta Braves lineup. Framber Valdez is the most how do I want to say this? He is the pitcher that pitches for the Astros that gets the least amount of swing and miss, least amount of swing and chase, and least amount of swing and miss in the strike zone. So that means he is the most hittable of all the Houston Astro pitchers. His big claim to fame is that he has a big ground ball percentage. So he's going to get a lot of ground ball outs. So how does he get them? Well, he gets them with the curveball. So when I went and I said, okay, well, show me what these guys do and how they do against certain pitches, right? So I looked it up, right? So curveballs. The Atlanta Braves are the 5th best hitting baseball team against curveballs in Major League Baseball. So that's a good number, and that's to me was a pretty amazing number because I didn't really realize that. And where they don't have a big problem pitch except for a slider, and most teams have that problem. Most teams aren't real good slider hitter teams, but um, I think the Atlanta Braves match up real well. I think they match up real well against this pitcher. I think they're going to match up against most of these pitchers. I don't think they're going to be anybody out there that scares them. And these teams haven't seen each other a lot. Now, Morton has seen the Astros probably more than you think he has, even though he pitched for the Astros. When I looked it up, he's got 101 at-bats against the Astros. The Astros have 26 hits, so that's not terrible. I mean, that's 257 as a batting average. But what I thought was interesting is the player that has the best results against Charlie Morton is a player that I wouldn't even consider worrying about. It's Martin Maldonado. He has 15 at bats and 8 hits. So he's the most dangerous quote batter against him, sort of, in regards that his batting average is good. But the two guys that you need to worry about is Altuve and Gurriel, both bat over 300. As a team unit, they bat 320 a weighted on base average, which is a little bit low. So that's a little bit below average. And the ISO rate is 129. So that's well below average. So extra base hits, he's kept them in control. And then Framber Valdez has actually seen a couple of these hitters. And you wouldn't believe this, but he's faced Eddie Rosario. And Eddie Rosario is 3 for 4 against him. And you know how Eddie Rosario has been doing. He's just been going up there and getting hit after hit after hit after hit. Now, I mean, he's only faced them 10 batters, so it doesn't mean anything, or 10 plate appearances. But in those plate appearances, he's got 7 at-bats and 3 hits. So it's like I said, he's only got 1 strikeout in those 10 at-bats. So he's not a strikeout guy, and they're going to put the ball in play. The other interesting part of this was when I looked at fly ball percentage to home run rate. If Atlanta can get the ball in the air, Framber Valdez has a 22% home run rate on fly balls. That's really high. Normally you get at least some of these are outs, but because he's such a ground ball pitcher, if you get the ball in the air, it flies out. So that bodes well for a team too. And what was interesting is, I talk about ISO rate a lot, but it's ISO rate basically just describes their power, and power in terms of extra base hits, not just home runs. Home runs are in there, but in terms of extra base hits, the Atlanta Braves for the season, 191 in ISO rate. The number 1 team in Major League Baseball, Toronto Blue Jays at 200. The next best team, the Atlanta Braves, and that's a big statement to me because I didn't expect it to be that high, because I expected Houston to be up there, and Houston actually is 9th in baseball in ISO rate. So as well as their offense is, and as many runs as they score and all the different things that they do, the Houston Astros, the big thing they don't do is strike out. So it's going to be an interesting series, but I like the Braves. I like how they match up. I think they got better pitching, and I think their offense is going to be good enough.
I agree. It'll be interesting to see if we get a push tonight when we wake up in the morning, when it's actually, game 1.
Day.
Yeah, if we get any further push. I'm kind of on the fence right now. I don't think this gets to 150 and 130. I got to make some phone calls out to Vegas, see what's going on. We'll see what they're hearing. I think the plus 125 is a great number. With a 2-3-2, I always bring this up very simply, is this. Can the Braves get a split in Houston? And then if that's the case, Houston now plays, well, can we make it back home? And I always talk about that is if you can get the split and then hold serve, win 2 out of 3, you're going to go back to Houston up 3-2. And so I like everything about the Braves here. I like the price. I like the opening number, the fact that Houston was only plus 125, which in my eyes is Vegas saying, all right, guys, we got a couple windows open here. We'll open up a few more. Come on over. We're looking for Astros money. And here's the funny thing on this Astros run, and I read something earlier this week, Mattress Mac, I have not seen or heard from this guy in weeks. He has the potential of making the biggest score ever. I think he's up to over $30 million right now. If the Astros do win the World Series, that he'll be collecting, which we could talk a whole show about Mac and his agents setting up the prices. He don't get these numbers that I'm showing you guys. He's got everything lined up to him where he's getting them at, pennies on the dollar. He's probably got the Astros at, never mind before the season started or mid-season. This type of numbers here, they're taking his money at the Astros minus 120, 118, 114, giving them the good deals, the behind the scenes deals that people like you and I would never get.
Yeah, that's the power of now we gotta explain a couple of things here, right? So when Mattress Max bets and he does all the different things that he does, he's not a gambler, guys. I mean, he's not, I shouldn't say it that way. He's a gambler. He's doing business propositions. That's what he's doing. So in the way we hedge bets and we do different things, he has a business where they obviously call him Mattress Mac because he sells beds. So the goal for him was to sell a whole bunch of beds. So what's he doing? He's out there publicizing that if the Astros win, you get free beds. The beds you bought, you're going to get your money back. Whatever. And so he has to cover that. So how he's going to cover that? He's going to make bets on the Astros. So his numbers are only going to be reflected in certain lines at certain places. They're not everywhere, and they're not at every place because not everybody's taking his action. Now, that being said, nobody's afraid to take his action because he's not a well-schooled gambler. I mean, he's not a guy that's going to go out there and go, I'm doing this and I'm going to put $100 million on this game because I know everything that nobody else knows. There are people that are like that casinos love, and they are more than welcome to come in there and what do we call that one guy? The carry the bag guy or whatever his name is. The duffel bag boy, right? Duffel bag boy. So they don't care about taking action on those plays, on those guys. And they got to know who the person is. But they're going to sit there and go, yeah, we'll give you that because you're not a great gambler, right? So if someone of different ilk went out there and wanted to drop a duffel bag and go, hey, I got this duffel bag and I want to put on, they'll say, no, I don't want to take your action because you're going to beat the line more often than you're not. So that's the way it works. And they're not going to sit there and go, okay, well, this guy just bet this much money. I need to get a whole bunch of different money in here, so I got to change the lines up. Well, even if you change the lineup and the news got out that this quote true real gambler went out there and spent this money, the lines are going to keep going in that direction. So that's a no-win situation for the sports book. But if you have some kind of I don't know, star just by name, and he's some guy that maybe he's a movie star. Right? So just say Tom Hanks goes out there and says, here's $3 million. I'm going to put it on XYZ. That doesn't change the numbers, guys. That has nothing to do with anything. That's almost like just that's just a side bet, whatever. It's just like a fan betting on things. It has nothing to do with anything. If someone else went out there and put $3 million on the game, they might not even take it.
It's going to be interesting for sure. Again, like we started earlier on the show, an NFL game tonight that, hey, listen, if you watched last night's game, you're going to watch tonight's game. I know it's Monday Night Football. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 NBA games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 NHL games. We didn't even touch them. Again, too early in the season. We've dabbled in hockey. We've had some success of late. Game here, game there. We have yet to release any NBA games, and I don't think I will for a while. I have our reasons why there. But what we try to do here at the Breakfast Bankroll is to get you set up for today's action, and we give you a little preview and sneak preview of what to expect for tomorrow. So for today, anyone wagering, investing, betting, whatever you call it, always remember this. Wager with your head, not your heart. If you have a problem, pick up that phone. There's an 800 number out there. There's people that care. Reach out, ask for help, and always stick to your lanes. I can't stress this enough. It's a marathon out there, not a sprint. Myself and Scotty will be here today, tomorrow, next week, next month, which is Monday. Next Monday is November 1st already, which means 2 months left in 2021. We'll be here in 2022, 2023, and beyond. So for myself, Jeff Dawson, Scott Webb, have a blessed day. Best of luck with your wagers, and we will catch up with you tomorrow morning, same time, same back station.